Welcome to the Bolt Podcast. I'm Todd Bertsch, your guide on this exciting journey of personal growth. Together, we'll explore real-life examples of how small shifts can create massive results through growth tips, life hacks, and strategies to supercharge your mind, body, and soul. So, if you're ready to unleash the inner Bolt within you and become the best version of yourself, then let's ignite your growth today. I'm excited to introduce our guest for today's show, Kristoffer Carter, better known as KC. KC is the CEO and founder of Epic Leadership, a training organization for conscious leadership, which has created a daily meditation practice for thousands. He is the author of Permission to Glow, a spiritual guide to epic leadership, which guides his team's coaching of Fortune 100 executive leaders at Amazon, AT&T, eXp Realty, Edward Jones, Flywheel Digital, and many more. His work has been featured in Men's Health, Fast Company, on Good Morning Washington, and the Good Life Project podcast. He serves on the board of directors of Yoga Alliance and teaches at Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health and lives in Akron, Ohio. Listeners, you are in for a wild ride today, so buckle up and enjoy my conversation with Kristoffer Carter. KC, it is so good to see you, man. Welcome to the Bolt Podcast.
I can't think of a better name of a podcast that I would want to be associated with, so thanks for having me here. It's really exciting to be here.
Yeah, cool. You and I share a lot of the same passions, right?
Yep.
We've had several discussions. Breakdancing.
I was just going to start with that.
Well, you were going to.
That's my favorite part of you.
Right? Breakdancing. A lot of people wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
About us. We have that passion. Personal growth, obviously, coaching, and lightning bolts.
Yeah, lightning bolts.
We both are huge fans of lightning bolts.
Gotta love them.
Right?
What does it mean to you? Why the bolt?
Oh man, ever since I was a kid, I loved lightning bolts, like the cartoon Flash.
Yeah,
he was my guy because he was unique, different. He wasn't on every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, your book back then. If you didn't sit down Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, you missed it.
Right.
But Justice League, Flash was just brought in every now and then as this cool cameo, and the speed. So I was always short. I had to compete by speed only.
Yeah.
So that was one of many reasons, but when I was in breakdancing, it was also part of my logo. My tag was Windmill Wizard with the lightning bolts.
Windmill Wizard with the lightning.
Yeah.
This is the best.
Right?
I love it.
So I guess this was kind of meant to be.
Absolutely.
To have you on our show. I'm so excited. This is going to be an epic conversation.
That's how we do it, as advertised.
Right? So I understand, knowing you and talking with you for a while, that you had a really great career, and then you at one point pivoted to executive coaching.
Yeah.
Like, what was the reason for that change in your career path?
Yeah. So, I think coaching, what I always say is coaching chose me before I chose it. I would sit down on an airplane. When I was a salesperson, I worked in advertising technology sales. And I would travel the country to sell to clients, and I would sit down on a plane, and people would sit down next to me and tell me all their biggest fears and tell me their biggest dreams. And I didn't know what they were doing that for or why it was happening, but I thought, this is interesting. There's something about me that's open and curious and maybe creates a safe space where people could tell me these really sensitive things. And eventually that led to me training people inside the organization. I became a confidant and a coach for the CEO of that company. When I joined that company, we had 40 employees. When I left 8 years later, we had over 900. And now that's a $1 billion plus company that's about to go public. It's been on a huge trajectory. And so I started learning a lot about team dynamics and coaching executive performance. And it just became one of these things where it was so obvious that my path was appearing before me, that all I needed to do was to get the training, get the practice, and then eventually make the leap into doing it for myself full time. So I always said that I couldn't really improve on them as a full-time employer. They were just amazing. They won a lot of awards for culture. They took great care of us. And I've tried my best over the last 9 years to honor that commitment, and so far I've been pretty lucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I too, and I call that a special gift, because not everybody has that gift where I'll go and I'll be at the grocery store sitting down at a random place, and these random people will just come up, sit next to me, and start opening up and tell me their whole life story. And I'm like, I don't know you from Adam, but I'll listen, right? So, and that is all about coaching, right? Just listening.
It is. So
being an active listener.
People think that coaching is just a skill set, a tactical skill set, which it is, and it's important to have training. But also, it's a heart set. It's a frame of service, of an ability to hold space for people and turn their content or the river of words that they're sharing with you into action. And I've been really blessed with mentors that have helped me think about that piece, which to me is the real gift of coaching.
Yeah. So how long have you been coaching now?
Yeah, so professionally on my own for 9 years.
Okay.
And then prior to that, I had about 4.5 years of just concentrated practice inside that organization. So yeah, I've been really fortunate. Coaching is still a very new, emerging field. And the stat that I share with people is that according to the International Coaching Federation, roughly 90% of coaches today make 45 grand a year or less coaching. That's how new it is. Because I have so many children, I have 3, and we're a family of 5, when I launched out of my corporate career, I needed to not only approximate my sales salary, but start working on improving upon it and building an actual volume of business. So it was kind of the perfect pressure cooker of motivation that if I was going to go pro, I wanted to figure out how to scale a coaching practice. And so there's a lot of things I'm happy to get into with that. So because it is important to me that it's not only a passion, but it's also a very viable business.
Right.
I mean, this is what pays for my kids' college. Right. This is what pays for our life.
Yeah, and that's interesting as I've been doing research on just life coaching in general, right? There's all kinds of different coaching. At the end of the day, it is kind of life coaching.
It's all life coaching.
Right?
Executive coaching is life
from
coaching.
A holistic perspective.
Yeah.
And it is one of the fastest growing markets out there. But there's a lot of people that can't make the money. And a lot of what I've heard and read is it's all about the sale and the marketing.
It is a lot about the sale and the marketing, and what you find because of that, there's a lot of snake oil and charlatans in it. People that just want to, who wouldn't want to call themselves a coach? It gives you, that a level of prestige and the air of mastery in some way. Like, who am I to coach a C-level executive? I didn't go to school where they did. I don't have 7,000 people reporting up to me. But once you have that skill set, there is a degree of power that it gives you. So what I see in social media is a lot of people just wanting that without doing the work or the training to support it. Yeah. And the work and the training is what actually creates, marketing absolutely helps. Right. The power of marketing better than anyone. But the raving fan service of transforming lives, you're going to have enough clients to sustain you if you back up what you
have to do the work.
Yeah.
And it's those reps, right?
Yeah, the 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell. My daughter's a professional musician. We talk about it all the time. It's not about singing pretty or writing the best songs, which absolutely helps.
Right.
It's about falling in love with practicing. And when I tell my kids and I tell all my clients the same thing, is that you better find something you love to do, because you're going to be working your ass off regardless.
Right.
And fortunately, I found a path in life in my mid-30s that just felt like what I was here to do, and I'm not afraid to just sit down and crank the work involved to build the practice.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love it. It sounds like you've definitely found your lane, right? And it's a beautiful thing, and this is what we do in coaching, right? And just in general is try to guide people into that fulfillment, that life, that dream that's going to make them happy and doing what they were meant to do, why they were meant to be here. And that's cool that you're able to find that place.
Yeah, thanks. It's a gift, and I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the things that I noticed in your bio, and you say it several times, and I just want to dig into it a little bit, because I'm really curious. When you talk about your training organization, Epic Leadership, you specifically mention conscious leadership.
Yeah.
And I love that. But tell me what that means and why.
Yeah, so leadership has grown into one of these kind of fluffy topics. Like it means everything and it kind of means nothing because it's so vague. Right. And the way I see conscious leadership, the main distinction is that we are at an unprecedented level of change in our world right now. The military calls it VUCA. It's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. These 4 horsemen screw with us mercilessly. And what I have found over and over is the organizations and the leaders in these organizations who are willing to create a higher level of consciousness, higher level of awareness to navigate those forces. Because the old way of doing things will not work. You know, we can't just command and control, for example, like we did in the industrial age or the agricultural age. Our military systems of hierarchical structure, they evolved out of these things like, you get down that mine shaft or they'll be held to pay.
Right.
Well, knowledge workers won't do that. I mean, you have employees.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be like, I'm out of here. I don't have to do
Peace
that.
out.
Right. So the consciousness piece is about raising leaders' emotional intelligence, about reading the room, about communicating at a higher level of refinement so they can really get across the vision that they have versus just blurting and barking at people of what to do. But it's a challenge, and honestly, I don't always call it conscious leadership because some organizations just won't buy that.
Okay.
I'll call it what they need to call it. I'll call it coaching or leadership or whatever, but they're going to get the medicine that they're going to get. Like a lot of what I do is just, I build the Trojan horse, I wheel it up to the gates, and once it's inside, they're getting yoga, they're getting meditation, they're getting conscious leadership.
Right. Epic leadership.
Epic leadership, yeah. And I prefer the name epic leadership, but it's up to me to help the market define what that is.
Sure.
And what that is conscious leadership mixed with taking big, bold, lightning bolt level risk.
Yeah.
You know, to do the bold thing even though it's not the popular thing.
Yeah.
That's epic leadership.
Yeah. And that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Oh, people live to stay in their comfort zone. That's where they have earned their little safe corner of the world.
Safe
and
place.
so organizations are the same way, and pushing people outside of that, that's where all the growth is.
Right.
And so our job as coaches, I believe, is to kind of lure people out there onto the leading edge of their capabilities. And to me, that requires higher levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to see how terrifying that is, acknowledge it, and still do the work anyway.
Right.
But without the awareness, without the consciousness, you're just going to be trying and failing.
Right. Absolutely. No, this is great. And I love this is a great segue into kind of our next topic, this higher level of consciousness, meditation.
Yeah.
Really wanted to talk about that. I know that is near and dear to your heart, both personally, professionally. You're involved in organizations. You lead these amazing retreats. It's a big part of your book, big part of your life. And, you know, I've been really trying to get meditation into my life, into my routine for probably 3 years now, and I struggle with it. I just finished reading 5 a.m. Club by Robin. Dude, is freaking amazing, man. But what I loved about what he said, and just about, you know, own your morning, elevate your life, you know, getting up before the distractions. Right? Before anybody else.
Right.
When it's quiet, when the birds...
Before the world gets its hooks into you.
Right. You know, the birds are chirping, they're waking up. So that's kind of started to work for me. And I'm not even close to probably where you're at and a lot of your clients are at, but I'm trying, right? And I'm trying to build, a habit, get it into a routine. I'm taking 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, a couple times a day. And I also went through a program, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, by Charmin, which is Positive Intelligence.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great program. It's all about building that mental muscle, right? And repetition and training yourself to pause, to take a moment, and really kind of do these meditational reps throughout the day. So that was a long way of getting to the question. I guess I was kind of relating what my experience has been, and I think a lot of our listeners probably struggle with this too. Like they've heard about it, how wonderful it can be, but I also feel like it can be pretty scary too, because I think about meditation, all these different levels. You know, how does somebody get started? You know, and then also, what are the benefits? Why are you such a big rabbit fan?
I think we've got to start with the benefits so people understand what's at stake and how easy it can be and should be, because I think our culture just gets it wrong with what is meditation. people I think are so afraid to try it and fail because they think it's to have a clear mind. It's almost impossible to have a clear mind.
Yeah.
Meditation is the time you spend clearing the mind and then bringing the attention back. And when I do this with my hands, I'm showing the reps that we're doing with what is the real muscle we need, which is our meta attention. We are strengthening our meta attention muscle every time our mind wanders, which is what it's supposed to do. We bring it back, you know? And then as we do this, you experience bigger gaps of silence and peace and all that. But until then, you just want to spend the time building that muscle. And like one of my favorite examples of this was I used to live over in this neighborhood on Casterton Avenue, and I forgot one day, my meditation habit had developed so deeply at that time of my life. My kids were little. I've been struggling like you and like many people since the pandemic because all of our routines got just obliterated. When the kids came home, when the world just started working in a different way.
Right.
So rebuilding those routines is kind of where I am at too. Like right now, I used to be an hour a morning religiously for many, many years.
Oh, wow.
1 hour of meditation.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and what I did is I traded an hour of sleep for an hour of meditation because all the research shows that it's more restorative than sleep anyway.
Right.
So I would sleep 6 hours, get up and meditate an hour, and I felt better than when I was sleeping for 7 hours.
Right.
And then it also started transforming my life in radical ways. And I think the biggest benefit of that is that your awareness grows as you strengthen that meditation, so you just make better choices in the checkout line with people who are high drama or no drama, with whether I drink the second drink or not or quit drinking. And my career started evolving because I was just becoming so much more guided by purpose. So when you feel like you're off purpose or out of alignment, your meta attention grabs you and says, you know, don't do the predictable safe crap anymore. Do what you want to do. And so that those many years of meditating an hour is what really accelerated the transformation of my career. I did quit drinking. I did start running marathons. I did start, you know, a lot of my heroes became my peers, and it was freaky and still intimidating. Like when I look back and I hear some of my bio, I think, how did this happen?
Right.
And it's because I surrendered every morning for an hour and let life, God, spirit, whatever that force is for people, I let it have its way with me and make me more on purpose. And that work continues. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm on purpose, other times I feel like I'm a mess. But the day I was going to mention was that I forgot one morning that we had scheduled Amish roofers to come re-roof our home. And I did, like every single morning, I had this habit routine down. I went up into my basement office, I lit a candle, and that's the cue for the habit loop. So when I light a candle, I know that I'm committing to an hour of meditation.
Right.
And this was how hardcore my habit was at the time. I lit the candle, I sat, and I heard the truck pull up, and I heard Amish workers storm our roof and start ripping shingles off and pounding nails and booming. My kids, one by one, crawled up into my lap, shaking and crying and saying, "Daddy, what's happening?" And I said, "I'll be down to breakfast in an hour," you know. And but what I did to get through that is I would tune into a worker over on the far corner of the roof, and I named him in my head Ezekiel. And the rhythm of his hammer was getting me through it. And so I was meditating to him, I was meditating to this whole experience. So as dust was falling, as glass was shaking, I felt, you know, it was a powerful experience for me because this is why we meditate, because the world does that on a daily basis. And then we have a choice. You know, Viktor Frankl's quote, I use it in every training I do around meditation, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our ability to choose our response. In our response is our growth and our freedom. So the meditation practice is just to stretch out those moments so we're not just action reaction. You know, our kids frustrate us all the time, our work, if we're being honest. Life frustrates us all the time, but how do we want to respond? Do we want to fly off the handle like maybe we learned at home as a kid? Or do we want to just take a step back, breathe, pause, and choose a better response? So in that morning, I thought, this is really interesting, you know? And I think on our best days when life goes sideways, we could just take a step back and say, wow, this is really interesting. What do I want to do with this? And that's what meditation gives us.
Wow, man, that's a lot to unpack. That was beautiful.
Yeah, well,
I mean, really.
But that's, I mean,
but
I think about it, and I had to write it in the Permission to Chill section of the book.
Right.
Is that why do we chill? We are a culture of high performers, high achievers, capitalist society, go, 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 time is money.
Yeah.
And the radical notion that we can pause and actually get better work done, that's interesting to me. Because then it's not about action, it's about right action. And right action has guided my life. I don't have time for half the crap I do in my life. But if I'm guided by right action, that is why we meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. You're speaking my language. I did an episode on the power of the pause button.
Oh,
which is, I mean, you and I are so, let's say, before I even got to the book, with, you know, the permission to chill with the icon of the pause button. And I struggled with the pause, patience really, right? Which is essentially, I think,
I'm a known impatient person.
Okay,
you know,
so I grew up my whole life like that. My mother was like that. I got that from her, but I also got some good qualities. You know, it really, in some ways, I was super driven. You know, but I had a horrible attitude, a horrible temper. And I was just short fused. I went from 1 to 10 like that. There was no gap, as you say, right? There was not even an opportunity to chill. I certainly didn't give myself permission to chill. But during COVID, going through the PQ Positive Intelligence program by Shirzad, that changed my life. By adding that pause button into my life, oh my God, I'm a whole new person. You know, driving down the street and somebody cuts me off, I used to flip them off, be my wife, drive her nuts. Like, what are you doing? And now I'm just like, whatever, you know, doesn't bother me.
They're clearly having a bad day.
And who knows, maybe they're going to the emergency room. You don't make assumptions. You don't know what people are going through. So I love the pause button. I love it, and it will change your life forever. And it is permission to chill. I love how you coined that.
You know, your story is so similar. I met this the TV host Tom Bergeron. He hosted Dancing with the Stars for 14 years. He hosted America's Funniest Videos for 14 years.
Oh gosh.
I wrote this ridiculous song about Tom Bergeron last year, and I got to meet him through that. He was moved by it. But in the middle of it, what I realized, his secret sauce is that he got into transcendental meditation for like the past 40 years, and he had anger issues, and his wife basically gave him an ultimatum. She said, if you want to be married and stay married to me, you must work on this anger thing. So he chose transcendental meditation, but that's what he credits with getting him on multiple shows, Hollywood Squares, all these things, like his ability to juggle so much. And his gift as a host is to just be in the moment with anything that happens.
Right.
And that comes from that just higher awareness and his ability to pause every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I would be where I'm at today without going through that practice.
Yeah,
both
right.
personally in my life. I mean, it's changed my marriage. It's changed
my
relationship with my kids, with my team, the way I lead my organization.
That's why it's the first in the book, because it is the foundational thing. When leaders are willing to make that space of time to work on their meta attention, they'll make better choices. They'll treat people better, and those people want to stay with them longer.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I think it's a great segue into this amazing book, Permission to Glow. Man, what a great book, I will say. Everything about the book. Now, I'm a traditional graphic designer, so I look at books a little bit differently than probably the average person as you do. I've read many books. A lot of books are just very typical, right? You just heavy text, it's the same, Garamond, whatever, and you just go through and there's chapters and there's no real excitement. And with your book and even the Habit Coach, or the coaching habit, which I think I could tell there was some influence.
Right. I had the same designer.
Well,
my friend Michael, who wrote The Coaching Habit, is a hugely successful coaching book. He sold almost 2 million copies of that book. But the same, we have the same publisher. And when I was working with that publisher and signed the contract for the book, I specifically asked if the team led by Peter could work, the same team that worked on Michael's book could work on mine, because I loved how they distilled such a complex topic into just fun, bite-sized, actionable nuggets. And very few of my clients will take the time to read a book cover to cover. They have so many things to do. So I wanted the book to be fun and friendly and easy, but there's a lot to it. And so a lot of that, it factors into the design.
Yeah, it's a work of art, really.
Thanks,
I mean,
man.
you can go through. I mean, literally, there are beautiful illustrations throughout the book.
Well,
You know?
that's one of the things I'm most proud of.
I love that. One of the last with the fader.
The illustrations at the back. This was a good friend of mine who works for Earthquaker, designing their pedal casings.
Yeah.
He draws from Marvel Comics, and one of my favorite.
That's right.
Yeah, and he delivered food for House of Hunan into his 40s, and we were all worried about him as friends. Like, when's this guy gonna? He has kids. Like, when's he gonna, get a job? But what we didn't know about Matt Horak was that he was sending his artwork away to Marvel Comics since he was a kid, and they called when the dude that drew Punisher passed away, and he got to start drawing Punisher. He started drawing Spider-Man, Deadpool, and I was really lucky to get him to draw the interior of my book. It was like a total. I wanted that Marvel level energy to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was great from cover to end, and just the way that you broke out the chapters, and there's quotes, and I was thinking about on the ride in today, it was like every page was like a little surprise.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what I was going to get, although there was definitely kind of a formula, but it was still a surprise. I'm like, oh, cool.
Well, this is the weird thing about writing a book is that I just work here, the best stuff happens kind of through us, and there's parts of that book. A client had a real huge challenge around boredom. Like, they were starting to just make bad choices whenever they got bored, which is very common for a lot of us. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't think of a better book to recommend than my book, weirdly, right now, because I wrote extensively about this, that boredom is an opportunity for awareness. And so I opened it up to that page, and it was like the perfect page and a half that she needed to move forward in her work. And I thought, this is the magic of doing that work, is that you put together things. I wanted to make coaching more accessible to people. It's a very privileged service.
Yep.
Not everyone can afford a coach or an executive coach.
Right.
And so I wanted to make a $16 or $17 option for people to have a primer on what it means to be coached.
Yeah. No, that's great. And you launched this in 21?
Yeah, the end of 21.
So during COVID.
Yeah, tail end.
So how long did it take you to write the book?
Yeah, so what's fascinating about it is, this is a case study for coaching right here, is that my coach, Christine Sachs, she's a Jedi level coach. She trained me, she trained my wife, she works for Accomplishment Coaching, she also has her own coaching practice in New York City. She knew that it was my dream for 20 some years to write a book. And so what happens when we have that dream? We think about, like, we need to go off to a mountain and write numerous drafts and then get a publisher. It just seems so big and daunting, right? Yeah. And so I had the publisher interested and on board, but the publisher said, when can I see a draft? And Christine coached me into saying, I will have a draft done 6 weeks from today. And I had not started. And I thought, pressure cooker, right? But that commitment to my coach and to my publisher made me turn in a draft that I was actually pretty proud of. And then the clock starts a year of revisions, Right. So I probably wrote a total of 80 or 90,000 words. We chiseled it down to 23,000 words that are well designed, and it was all about just the coaching commitment to do it. But what was fascinating with Christine is that she wanted me to have a breakthrough as an author. And this is something I work with on my clients every day. So if I saw myself as an author, the book would be easy to generate. If I saw myself as some working stiff in Akron, Ohio, or wherever, right, that writing a book was daunting or above me, or too much, or I was the imposter syndrome would take over, right? Like, who am I to do this? Right. To write a book about conscious leadership? I grew up in the suburbs of Brunswick, and she had me declare this breakthrough, and one day I finished writing, I was sitting at my coffee table, I responded to a few marketing things for they were starting to work on the book launch 6 months in the future. I responded to those, and I closed it, and I got this like body buzz, and I thought, these are the things that authors do. They write great stuff, they show up, they close their laptop, they respond to a few marketing things, and I'm launching a book, and I literally put my finger in the air, and I thought, I had this breakthrough. I'm an author. And
this has been a great conversation, Casey. I'm so glad that you just blessed us with your presence today, and your time and your wisdom. So many good things to talk about. This book, if you don't have it, please go check it out. Where can they get this, Casey?
The easiest is online anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Okay. Because it came out at the tail end of the pandemic, I made the conscious choice to not print up a bunch of copies for bookstores. people weren't going to them at the time. So online retailers is where to get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And what if somebody wants to connect with you or follow you?
LinkedIn is a great spot.
Okay.
I'm Epic Leadership everywhere. Our site is epicleadership.org.
Okay.
Connect with me through there. But please reach out. I love talking to people. I love hearing what they're working on and how we can help.
Okay. Awesome. So we're going to wrap here, KC, with the permission to glow. Everyone needs to get a copy of this. KC has given me the permission to read the permission slip to chill in the book, which is really powerful. So that's what I'm going to do for myself, for KC, and our listeners.
So, and just to add a little context to this, which I think will be helpful for the listeners.
Absolutely.
Is the point of this piece is to get him to commit to it at a different level. You heard him say that it's a struggle to create a really consistent meditation practice, but when we connect to the commitment at a much deeper level, the habits tend to follow.
Yeah.
So that's the goal of the permission slip.
Yeah. When you say it out loud.
When the universe hears you, it starts giving you resources and accountability to follow through on what you said.
Right.
Yeah, so this is speaking it into existence.
So here we go. Permission slip to chill. Because I deeply love myself, everyone around me, and all that is, I, Todd Bertsch, am giving myself the permission to chill. Not only in this moment, but in all moments moving forward, especially when I need it most. I am committed to creating space within and around me at all times. I choose the radical, defiant act of slowing down, of seeking and finding stillness. I will create any and all habits I need to honor my commitment to chill. When I fail, I will pick up right where I left off. I expect this journey to be challenging at times, so I have zero attachment to the process. When my path bends fully vertical, I am willing to climb. My work is to repeatedly give myself this permission as many times as necessary, starting now. In doing so, I am allowing and receiving all assistance. I release any predictable resistance as it shows up. From this moment forward, permission to chill is granted. And so it is. That's how we end, dude.
Love it.
I love, great book. Love you. Thank you for the conversation, brother.
My pleasure. Thanks for
Bring it
being
in
here.
You know?
So congrats. I'm excited for your podcast.
This was great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You are on your way to growth, transformation, and joy. If you find this episode helpful, please like and share with your friends, and by all means, please leave a review. You can also view the show notes and subscribe to the Bolt newsletter at toddbertsch.com. Remember, real change takes time. Start small and watch the growth take shape.